What is up, indeed? You feel me? Let me get a little closer. All right, right real quick. All right. Yeah, I think that's kind of. What's up? You feel me? So we back in here, man. Preseason football is upon us. We are at halftime of game one, Hall of Fame game of the preseason. So I decided I was just gonna pop in a little bit and give a little perspective, because again, we're not necessarily trying to hear them talk about the Hall of Famers. We're trying to hear me talk about the Hall of Famers, for example, among other things. Let's start off right now. Our score is, if I'm not mistaken, 16-7. Kellen Mond has thrown an interception and led a touchdown drive for the Cleveland Browns. Um, right now, the Jets' backup quarterback's name is escaping me a bit. So let me go ahead and do a little bit of Googleables and tell y'all exactly who he is. But again, he's managed to put them in the end zone at least 2 times. Um, Greg Zerline's also hit a pretty good kick. Zach Wilson had a pretty cool start to the game so far. But he also didn't play very long, which is surprising to me. I do think he should keep playing. Tim Boyles, who's in right now. For the Jets, Joshua Kelly has had a pretty good game so far. 10 carries for 42 yards, so he's kind of getting it in. But matchup coaching-wise, third-year coach, if I'm not mistaken, versus fourth-year coach, right? Stefanski, I think, is in his fourth. Salah's in his third. Salah's 5-0 in preseason games. Stefanski right now is 4-2. Pretty good matchup. I think one of the biggest things that you see in the preseason a lot of times is all about coaches who are better equipped at scouting players to start, I think, and the ability to kind of get guys, which I've been talking about all day, who just can come out and play football. It's not necessarily solely about them getting the system, especially to start in preseason, as much as it is about seeing guys that are putting themselves in a position to just play their best kind of football when you need them to play their best football, so to speak. And I think Salah's record of 5-0 so far kind of speaks to that. His ability to get the Jets to come in and be able to play high-level defense underneath him as a head coach. With him, like, you feel me, being back, or excuse me, getting the job as a head coach, I think is a pretty big deal too. So when I look at this, I think I definitely expect them to win. My prediction score-wise earlier, if I'm not mistaken, I think I said that it would be 21-10, which we're looking at 21-10 right now. My preseason score adjustment, after actually watching for a moment and seeing Kellen Mond throw an interception as soon as I got home, I was saying that I was believing it to be a little bit more of a 21-6er. But we're going to see how it's going to play out. I think it'll be interesting for the Jets this year. And the Browns. I think there's two very interesting teams to have in this situation playing against each other, because I think Cleveland getting Deshaun Watson, it was, oh my God, they should be a Super Bowl favorite. They're capable of winning a Super Bowl. When Deshaun Watson gets in, he'll be able to lead them to a Super Bowl. Was a lot of what the media and stuff said too. And again, like hearing him talk about it today, he missed 700 days away from football. Like, that's a lot of time. So I think that situation with that division is so tough. Arguably, like, the best division in football, top to bottom, right? You got the Bengals, who are consistent, the Ravens consistent, the Steelers consistent, the Browns growing, trying to find consistency. But again, like, it's so many moving parts and so many things going on, so many changes. We'll see exactly who they'll be as the season goes on. Them making the playoffs is just hard for me in the division. I'll take the Steelers making the playoffs. I think the Steelers might be one of those new playoff teams. I think the Ravens may win a division possibly if Lamar comes out and does his thing. So, you know, and then again, the Bengals is the Bengals. I love the Bengals. I think the Bengals probably could win the Super Bowl this year. They might be one of my Super Bowl picks, arguably my Super Bowl pick this year, just because I like everything that they've got going on so far, and it kind of fits the place that they should be in. The Jets, I was saying earlier today to a coworker of mine, I don't necessarily believe in the idea that the Jets are going to the Super Bowl. I think it's tough in that division again. AFC, very hard. How can you expect to just say that the Jets now at Aaron Rodgers is going to the Super Bowl based on what they did last year. Because again, I do remember the Jets being dominant, but the dominance these people talking about, I don't know what Jets they was watching. Granted, like the Jets are quite a team, got a lot of talent, right? Again, you got Garrett Wilson, who I think could be introduced to us in a Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings kind of manner as Aaron Rodgers' go-to. Brees Hall could turn around and be a very, very capable and worthwhile back. I just finished a write-up about 20 players for teams to watch. I mean, for people to watch this season. And Bryce Hall was very high on my list. Garrett Wilson was number 3 on my list, I think. If not number 4 on my list. And again, that speaks to how talented they are. Garrett Wilson won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year with no consistency at quarterback, right? So what he'd be able to do with Aaron Rodgers should light it up. He had Christian Watson looking good last year and showing flashes of who he will be as a pro if things work out. So, this comes, and we see this with Aaron Rodgers and with the guys that he's with. So the hope for Garrett Wilson should be up there, but the expectation that they just going to come and storm this division now, I don't know about it. I got a lot more faith in the Dolphins. I got a lot of faith in the Bills, that's just what Buffalo do. When they are good, they got it going. So, oh my God, boy, I just watched this man throw a screen pass Tim Boyle just threw a screen pass at the back of the running back's head. Okay. So yeah, I think it'll be tough. Secondary wise, I think the Jets arguably got the best secondary or the best corner pairing arguably in the league. I think DJ Reed is arguably the best number 2 corner in the league, not a falling number 1. Again, like Dallas is going to be like, oh, yeah, we got this. Bradbury was an all-pro and Slay is cold. I like DJ Reed better than Bradbury. I ain't going to cap. Like, no lie. And I done watched him the whole time he been in the West. When he first got to the 49ers, he was good. When he was with the Seahawks, you watching him with the Seahawks and you saying to yourself, who the fuck, when did Earl Thomas, at least as far as how he was getting to the ball and moving around and playing ferociously, when did Earl Thomas move the corner? When did Earl Thomas get back with that ain't Earl Thomas. DJ Reed. Then making that power move. And again, one of my things that I like about him as a player, and I've really enjoyed watching DJ Reed's career, has been DJ put himself in good positions to be in the right places at the right time. Moving from the 49ers to the Seahawks, staying on the West with a good competitive program, right, in the Seahawks, it gave him an opportunity to really show his worth and prove his worth as a top, talented player. Also, playing under Coach Saleh when he was with the 49ers, or playing with Coach Saleh at least with the 49ers, he was recognized then when he ended up becoming a free agent last year to go to the Jets. Gets to the Jets, and he balled last year. One of the things I've been saying is I think he's going to be in position to take the Jets to that place that they need to be in. Again, if we look at the Jets and we do believe that they got a Legion of Boom defensive ability maybe to grow to, then that guy right there could be the dude who helps align a Sauce Gardner and be the guy that when the ball comes his way now, he proves himself over and over and over enough to where now you trying to throw the ball down the middle of the Jets defense and you're not attacking the outsides. That's huge. It's a big deal. It showed when they played Minnesota last year and how they were able to go against not Sauce Gardner, but Justin Jefferson and what DJ and Sauce were able to do. So I'm looking forward to that. As far as you want to talk about defense, you want to talk about DBs, you want to talk about good, talented players and things that's going on. I'm very much so excited to see that with the Jets and with DJ Reed and their secondary. We're going to see heading down to the 13-25 mark in the third quarter. I definitely think that they should have probably let Zach Wilson play a little bit more. I guess they kind of looking at it like he's a young vet, so he didn't need to play that much. He's going to play more in the preseason. But I probably would have gave him a good amount of burn right now because now I need him to be good and ready and making good quarterback decisions. I need to be evaluating him. It's not like, bro, at the end of the day, we're not going to sit you down for the next 2 years or 3 years Aaron Rodgers finna play and then come in and you still be ass. Get your ass in the game and figure this shit out. So that'll be interesting. As the Jets punt. Pretty good punt right here. Down to about the 18-yard line, and there's a flag on the play. Return man Felton up the sideline, and he was tackled at, looks like the 30. A little bit about the Hall of Fame, right? The players that made it, if I'm not mistaken, I know it was Darrelle Revis, Joe Thomas. Let me see. There we go. So we had Rondé Barber, Don Coryell. So Rondé Barber, obviously Tiki and Rondé. Rondé Barber, arguably, excuse me, the greatest cover two and nickel corner, I think, in the history of the game, because the Tampa 2 defense, they played a lot of cover two in Tampa, if I'm not mistaken. And he was a legend. And then moving into the nickel corner and playing after that defense left, after it was no Sapp, no Simeon Rice, no John Gruden, and playing for so well for so long, definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. Don Coryell. It's awesome seeing the Chargers with their offense and how they play. Because realistically, when you look at the Chargers and how it is they are now, um, Don Coryell coaching Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow and things like that, he would love the Chargers with Austin and Chuck Muncie and shit like that. He would love the Chargers now with Justin Herbert throwing that thing all around the yard and pause and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Austin Eckler. Like, so again, he's an architect of really the wide open passing offense, pause, in the NFL. Um, Especially because again, the Chargers being a big West Coast brand and he never gets talked about, and it's dope. If I'm not mistaken, Coach Coryell is not alive anymore, so it's dope that he even gets an opportunity now at this phase and at this stage to be recognized, and also to have a moment where a lot of people who are younger prospectively that don't know anything about him get an opportunity to learn a little bit about him and see. I think the beauty in football, just like basketball, is the history in the game is often all around us. Oh shit! Damn. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. My bad. I had a brief call. You feel me? I hope that didn't disrupt and kind of fuck up the flow and the go that we had here. Um, as I was saying, Don Coryell, really, really dope coach. Influence on the game and influence on the things that we're seeing in this day and age, I think is important too. It's funny as fuck. Yeah. I think it's very, very funny how you see the influence of what is going on with everything happening. Aaron Rodgers getting interviewed on the sideline right now in a preseason game, something that we was never seeing before. But again, the Pat McAfee show, shout out to YouTube, the encouragement to do your own thing and to get out there and to share your perspective however you do. He's going live on YouTube every Tuesday with Pat McAfee. Now they got to get him live in the game. Talking about what? What we already know. He working with his teammates, trying to get better, having a ball, having a blast, looking great, looking re-energized and revitalized with all these young boys on his team. Pause. Like, I don't even understand why they doing this, but again, that just smoozing, they building them up to take their ass down. That's all I'm saying. Um, Coach Coryell, Chuck Howley. I don't know a lot about Chuck Howley, but again, I remember the Dallas Cowboys, so let's go ahead and learn a little bit about him. From the University of West Virginia at the time where there was over the 94th overall pick. Who Lord knows. He was a first round pick, excuse me. I don't know what that is. Pro Football Reference got an approximate value stat here. I know what that is, but then it also says in parentheses 215th overall. But that was not where he was drafted. He was actually a 7th round pick in 1958. Jesus Christ, to the Chicago Bears. Um, Played 180 games in his NFL career. 180 games. He had 25 interceptions, 26 and a half sacks. That's Liddy. Tenured, legendary player. He was a 4-time, 5-time All Pro. That's dope. That's Liddy as hell. 1-time Super Bowl championship, Super Bowl MVP. Okay, okay, Big Chuck. Don't give a fuck, Chuck. Joe Klecko. I don't know a lot about him, but he was one of the originally good Jets. 1977 to 78. You feel me? 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All Pro. 1981 Defensive Player of the Year. You feel me? 1981, he had 20 and a half sacks. Damn. After that, it's crazy. He played 155 games in the NFL. Woo. Okay. Darrelle Revis, we all know about Revis Island, a legend. We ain't gonna smooth on Darrelle Revis too much. Maybe I'll talk about him at the end. The lineage of the great corner. Ken Riley, another great defensive back from the University of Florida A&M, HBCU. Shout out to that. Shout out to HBCU alum and a HBCU legend getting into the Hall of Fame this year. 200 games played in the NFL. That's incredible. 1-time All Pro his last season. Again, so that's crazy because he made the All Pro once at the end, meaning that he probably for sure should have made it the season he had 9 picks in 1976. But we're not going to talk about that. That's ridiculous. Oh, my God. Again, that's what I'm saying, right? You can look at this shit, and that's crazy. He was All Pro second team 2 times, All Pro first team 1 time. The season he had 8 picks, his last year in the league, he made the Pro Bowl with 89. Oh, excuse me. They ain't gonna show my boy tackles. That's fine. My man had 9 picks, 141 yards, and a touchdown. Longest pick was 55 yards. The season he had 8 picks. The nigga had 89 yards, 2 tubs. He made it that year, but not the year he had 9 in 76. This is what I'm talking about. That shit crazy. Shout out Ken Riley. But let's look at my boy playoff stats. Was he a baller? Was he a baller? They wasn't in the playoffs that long, but he was making the playoffs. That's fine. That's not about him. We need to be better as a team. Joe Thomas, arguably one of the greatest Cleveland Browns ever. Greatest lineman the game ever seen. Consistent, Mr. Consistency. Zach Thomas, one of the better inside linebackers. 2 players that I think is really dope. I think it's really, really dope, actually, seeing Zach Thomas and seeing Joe Thomas. Zach Thomas and Joe Thomas make the Hall of Fame, especially because, again, they were 2 guys who vastly, extremely realistically went underappreciated. They were extremely underappreciated, and they were consistent, and they were loyal to their teams. In a time like this, we probably would look at these 2 guys end up on a different team with a chance to win a championship respectively. And these guys kind of stay loyal to where they were. Zach Thomas, as a kid, I remember Zach Thomas was the beast. From Madden to watching him play for the Miami Dolphins in real life, I mean, he was dominant. Joe Thomas, again, was so consistent and loyal to the Cleveland Browns when he should have left. And, I mean, the Browns just never were able to fulfill or reward his consistency, but he was always there and always an impact player. And, I mean, lastly, he sang the national anthem today. And, I mean, he's a beast. 1-time Super Bowl champion, if I'm not mistaken, over 100 sacks, over 110, 150 sacks. Let me see, right? Yeah, 100, excuse me, not 150. 148, excuse me, 138 sacks, 38 and a half sacks in his career. He played 178 games, DeMarcus Ware. My boy made the Pro Bowl 9 times, All-Pro 4 times, Hall of Fame, all 2000s team, 1-time Super Bowl champion, Dallas Cowboy, and a Denver Bronco. First-round pick number 11 out of the University of Troy. DeMarcus Ware was a freaking monster, dude. He was really, really good, really talented, fast off the edge, and somebody who was really always an impact player for his team and teams. Great mentor to a variety of talented ends as well. So I think it's really dope he makes the Hall. And again, to talk a little bit about Revis as I close this out, one of the best players I've ever watched play. Most consistent players I've ever watched play. Technically sound, knowledgeable, understood, calm players I've ever seen. Composed players I've ever seen. the kind of player that, again, when you looking and you trying to encourage young guys to want to play like, as much as I love the big flashy these guys, that guys, I'm not probably showing no kids no Deion Sanders. I'm gonna show my kids Revis for real, fundamentally sound. Not that Deion isn't knowledgeable and not fundamentally sound, but taking that without the hyper level of athleticism, without the flash, at a level that you can break down to its simplest and show how much swagger you could play the game with when you play like that. And then it doesn't take away from your swag. It don't take away from your game to play like that. Realistically, you can have so much swag by simply coming out here and doing what it is you do, which is handling your business. Something that I think all of us can look to. With a few of the players on this list. Again, this list I think probably would be that if I said anything about this Hall of Fame class, right? This Hall of Fame class is a great example as they make them out to be to the youth and to those growing and striving and aspiring. They are inspired by so many people in sports or could take something from people who have accomplished the highest level at what they did, right? Is being consistent and not looking for the acclaim and the recognition for what you do and doing it fundamentally sound consistently as best you can do it and as best you will, not can, uh, without looking for people to recognize you for it, without an expectation that you'll be um, propped up and pushed up as the best necessarily for doing what it is you do, but understanding that by giving your all and giving your best in the moments where you're expected to, um, that you're capable and able to be called on in that moment to do that. And I think this class speaks to that. From Darrelle Revis, as never was a flashy, trash-talking defensive back, to Joe Thomas, who was never recognized and maybe given the opportunities to play in the biggest games to have his game spotlighted, right? I didn't see a lot of times in my life seeing Joe Thomas shown on the game where they zoom in and they say, now look at Joe Thomas. Look how good he's playing, because it was the Browns. The Browns weren't given that opportunity to play in a lot of those kind of games, right? Zach Thomas, you know if you know the game, but again, a lot of times it wasn't spotlighted because, again, the Dolphins weren't that great. It was about other players as well. Ken Riley making the All-Pro team, first team the last year of his career, not the year that was arguably his best year of his career. Crazy. Rondé Barber, so many people that know the game know, but again, if you don't know that he's one of the greatest nickel corners, transitional outside to nickel corners, as well as cover two corners in the history of the game. Don Coryell, all of his influence and things like that, often never talked about. Chuck Howley, you would never know that he was a Super Bowl MVP. So I think when you look over this list, and DeMarcus Ware again, University of Troy, how those kinds of schools go overlooked to become and to be able to put yourself in position to be one of the greatest players in the history of the game. Uh, it's about going and doing the work where you at, which is what every single one of these guys did. None of these guys, except for DeMarcus Ware and Chuck Howley, are from teams that are traditional NFL power teams, right? Tampa Bay, San Diego Chargers, New York Jets, Bengals, Browns, Dolphins. It's only two major championship team players. It's only, four Super Bowl rings on this list, if I'm not mistaken. Rondé Barber, Chuck Howley, DeMarcus Ware, Darrelle Revis. And those Super Bowl rings came with the Dallas Cowboys, the Denver Broncos, the New England Patriots, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Between those two teams, that's goddamn like almost 50% of the NFL's rings own just two teams. Right? The 50% of the NFL's rings reside with the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots. The Patriots got 7. The Cowboys got 4, if I'm not mistaken, or 5. Cowboys got 4. Come on. So what, 11, 12, 13, 14? That's 14 to 32 rings. Oh, excuse me, not 32 rings. Excuse me, 14 to 55 rings. It's not 50%. Oh, shit. That was a good-ass block. Damn. My math is 55-50 right now. But, you feel me? I appreciate those who are going to catch this and check this out. When they catch this and check this out, I was kind of trying to set it up to get it uploaded and presented for when folks was looking, like for folks to be live, but we'll set it up to be live a little bit sooner and different things like that. But I appreciate anybody that's going to check this out. We're going to continue to do this every week of the season as much as I can. We got college football coming up. We got a lot of pro football coming up. We got fights coming up. More episodes of the podcast coming. We'll be getting the episode prepared for you this weekend and another episode prepared for you next weekend, which means 2 recordings coming at y'all. The ZSPN Digital Archive will not stop and will not be stopped. And in so many ways, that is because of how much I love this shit. I'm built for this shit, and I'm gonna show y'all. And I'm proud of me, and I'm proud of y'all for fucking with me. And then for those people out there encouraging me, I believe in y'all just as much as y'all believe in me. You feel me? And we gonna get there. We gonna make it. Shout out to y'all. Y'all be blessed. I'm gonna see y'all in a minute. Go enjoy some ball. Go